It's a Monday night. It's not Saturday, and it's not 10 o'clock p.m. Our kids are probably, you got kids in bed, right? The little one's in bed.
The little one is in bed.
The little ones, for me, should be in bed, but it is 8:30. This is monumental. And as you can see, I am rocking, if you're watching or just listening, the brand new first edition Gritty Mama's hat. I'll get a little close so you guys can see. See that? There's a little symbol.
The back is like laced.
Let's show the back here because I needed to be able to fit the pony.
There you go. There you go. Yep, the lace in it.
Yeah, you can fit it in any hole you want to here. That doesn't sound right, but if you're watching, here it is. Got Velcro to make it tighter or looser. We've got Alpha Flow Athletics, who is the main sponsor and who I've teamed up with. Proverbs 31:25. And I'll show you the inside when we're done here. But I'm going to be rocking this. These are going to be available. We've only are getting 300 of them to see how it goes. And
you're pre-ordering, yeah?
Yeah. So, well, first we're going to reserve your spot in order to pre-order, if that makes sense. Okay. So stay tuned for that. I'll put the link in the description for how you can
on YouTube or
on all of it. Yeah.
Okay.
I can do it on the Buzzsprout too. And we're loving the comments. Thank you for sending them in. We're reading them. I get these little fan mail notifications, which are exciting to read.
The best one this week was?
Yes, somebody wrote on YouTube. I wish I could give you a shout out. I forgot who it was, but she said, okay, my only request, I don't know if it was Dutch or just French braids.
I think it's French.
French braids and a bandana. So one of these days we're going to surprise you people. We're not going to have the buns.
First I had to find somebody to French braid my hair because I cannot do it to myself.
I know. I can do it to myself, but it's pretty sloppy. But we are rocking the buns. It's a nice Monday night. Carly's going out of town, so we wanted to get this out to you. We've been consistent. I'm proud of us. This is, I think, number 8.
Yeah. We've
9. This is number 9.
For us, I mean, is there anything in my life that's consistent except for inconsistency?
What is it? Change is the only thing that changes? What is that phrase?
I don't know.
Anyway, you get the idea. But we're here tonight, and we were wondering what we were going to talk about. We're trying to think about going in chronological order of dating and having kids and getting married and him leaving and court and all the things. But because it's a holiday weekend and because Thanksgiving is coming and Christmas is coming, and my heart is like full of compassion for all the people, mainly the women that are in the same predicament as me every single Christmas. You get to a point where you start to dread holidays. You dread birthdays, not just because of, the cash and the lack, but because you're having to split your kids up. And there are some parents that are, some co-parents that are more vigilant than others, that are more diligent, I guess, in taking their time. And there are others that don't take their parent time. And then you're wondering if they're going to show up. And so you don't know what to plan for. So, and then you have to look at a calendar. I don't know if you knew this, but it's called, for those of us that have the minimum parent time schedule, it's called the Utah Code 30-3-35. So people will say, I have a 33-35. And then if you have a 2-2-5 schedule, that's where you have like a Monday and Tuesday, and then you alternate Wednesday and Thursday or something, and then you alternate every other weekend.
That's
so there'll be moms at Monday and Tuesday, dads Wednesday and Thursday, moms Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then the next week it will be the reverse. And then there are other people that do one-on-one, which is 1 week on and 1 week off. Mm-hmm. They're all horrible, in my opinion. I mean, I remember visiting with a therapist who told me when I said, I guess he's done. And he, when he called me and said, I actually want to go through with this after he told me he was staying. And the therapist said, okay, well, let's just see what happens. Why don't you tell him that you will be in the house 4 days out of the week and he can stay in the house 3 days out of the week so that the kids stay in the house.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty common now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it, gives the kids stability. And like, it was like vinegar when I brought it up, but I was like, okay, well, if that's what you want, then I will stay in the house 4 days a week while you work. And then you can stay in the house 3 days a week. well, I guess I go look for work. Cause if you're going to do this, then I need to find work.
Right.
And he said, that's not going to work for me. And I said, okay, so what would you like to do?
Yeah. What was his solution?
That's when he said, I have done more for my career in the 2 months that I've been here in Vegas than I have the whole 15 years. And so he told me then at that point that he was moving to Vegas.
Okay.
He never did officially, but he told me that he was. He told the kids that he was, and I had no idea. I mean, he was just here and there and everywhere and nowhere at the same time. He ended up, okay, so this is what we're going to get into, because he ended up moving in with a friend for 6 months in Highland Alpine area, which is where he currently resides, but he was with that friend for 6 months. But I think that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about is because these holidays are coming up and we're all single parents, it's the most stressful time of year, not the most wonderful time of year. But when you separate from your spouse or the day they leave, like overnight, the woman, or let's say a stay-at-home mom, which I was for 16 years, is responsible for now making up 50% of the income.
Which is wild.
Which is impossible. I mean, overnight I suddenly had to come up with half of the mortgage. And this is not even overnight, because remember, he left for 2 months and I was just hopeful he'd come back. So I was just waiting. And in the meantime, I should have been more proactive and
But he gave
striving.
you enough for hope.
Yeah.
It was
I'll let you know when I decide.
I'll probably come back kind of
yes,
feeling.
But I would have said it's easy to say this now, right? But I did have a therapist that said, well, start preparing now. You start putting money aside. You put your marriage on the shelf. And I was like, what? You're a marriage therapist. How can you say that? He said, now my concern and my priority is you and your well-being, not the marriage. And I was like, wait. And that shocked me. And he said, put it on the shelf and you start putting money aside. You create a bank account in your own name and you just live as though he's never coming back.
So
and I didn't do
it. One of the things that I think is important to point out, I mean, there are bad therapists. I will 100%, just like there's bad anybody in any occupation. They exist, right? But one of the reasons why you pay for a really good therapist is because...
To tell you what you don't want to hear?
Yes, but so growing up as an LDS person in the Seattle area, and my dad was a cop, right? If an LDS kid anywhere near us was getting into trouble... My dad heard about it because the parents would call my dad and say, what do I do?
Because he was a cop?
Yeah. Because their kid's getting in trouble with the law somehow, or they're worried about him getting in trouble with the law, whatever. They call my dad for advice. And my dad would say, well, this is what's going to happen next. Be prepared for this and this and this. And then, 2 months, 6 months go by and they call him back and say, how did you know? How did you know he was going to do that? And my dad was like, this is not rocket science. It's patterns of human behavior. And when you're in, an occupation or in some world for long enough, you learn those patterns. You see the behavior of people repeat time after time after time, and it's predictable behavior. So what your therapist was saying is, without him saying this, is listen, after all of these years, I know the signs, right? Like when we talk about red flags, he sees the red flags for, is he in or is he out? Right? Like you can't fix the marriage by yourself. So if your spouse is out, then you've got to be out, right? Like you can't like he's running away and you're holding his ankles, right? Like it doesn't work.
And that's what I was doing.
You got to let him go.
I was messing with his agency, to be honest, but I was bound to him and covenanted to him when really I'm covenanted to God, but also you give yourself to him. That's what we learn about in the temple. We're a gift to our husbands, I believe. And so I was worried about his own salvation by making this choice.
Well, we are never in the temple does ever say that we are a gift to our husband, but it is clear that we are for each other, that we're supposed to be we're better together. We need each other. We cannot end up in the eternities with our Father in heaven if we do not covenant together with him, right? But we don't, it's not just me and Heavenly Father, it's me and my husband and Heavenly Father and vice versa. We're all an equal team. And so I just want to make sure it's clear to those who aren't LDS
Yeah.
that I did not, I've been through the temple. I was married in the temple, and I've never had that feeling that my husband was superior to me and I was a gift to him or anything like that. There's no doctrine there, but I think that there's cultural things.
Yeah. At the same time, I do believe that women are gifts to men.
Well, I mean,
culturally speaking,
we can talk about how we make up for what they lack in a lot of ways.
Yes, that's what I mean. But by having this triangle of, we always learn in church, there's God and you and your husband and you're this triangle. And when he broke up that triangle, it was almost like I had become a failure too. And I wanted to save that, I guess, for both of us. Like, I'll do the saving for both of us. And it just doesn't work that way.
No. And to be clear, I've studied it recently and the doctrine is clear that you get all your blessings.
Yeah.
He is separating himself from his blessings, from the covenant he made, but not you. Yeah. So all of you divorced LDS women out there, you cannot allow this to make you feel less than or like you've done something wrong because they have. Like, you will continue to be blessed. You still have the power in your covenants. You still have that relationship with Heavenly Father. It's all still yours because you didn't do anything to break it.
Yeah. It just messes with your psyche and your spiritual well-being.
Because you lost a teammate.
Yeah. You lost your eternal companion, you know, that you were married to in the temple, and now nothing makes sense. And so when he decided to leave and the therapist is like, okay, well then you prepare yourself. I did not do what he said to do.
Because you were
hopeful. I mean, I thought stupid. I thought I was young and I was stupid, just like Mariah Carey sings. I thought that I had enough faith to bring him home.
Okay, but pause here for a second too, because there's a quote that says any two members of the church who are active, like anybody who's living the gospel. It doesn't even, I think you could extrapolate this to anybody of like a Christian religion or whatever. But basically, if you're living the gospel, any two people living the gospel can make a religion or make a marriage work, right? So in your head, you're thinking, he's an active member of the church. Yeah. I'm an active member of the church. We should be able to make this work, right? But being active and faithful are not the same things. Being active and having a testimony that you live out, understanding the scriptures and living as Jesus is different, right? Like you can understand the doctrine without living it. Yeah. You have to live the doctrine. And in order to, if you're doing that, you're putting your spouse first. You're, being an excellent dad. You're doing all of these things. And so I just want you to be careful because it's a trap that we put ourselves in, right? Like, you're too hard on yourself to say, oh, I was naive. Well, no, you actually looked at the situation for what it seemed. What everybody else on the outside said was, this man sings with the tabernacle choir. He's an active member of the church. I'm an active member of the church. I'm trying to do everything I can to live the gospel. And yet it's not working. Yeah. Well, someone in there is not living the gospel the way it was intended. Yeah. If it's not working, there's gospel principles that aren't being missed. Well, that's, I think, what troubled me so bad. And this is not... Please don't take this the wrong way or make assumptions about any other religions, but I would see my non-member neighbors with this flourishing marriage. And I would see friends who were inactive or even Buddhist members of the Buddhist church, with a great marriage. And then friends who have left the church and are totally anti, and they have this amazing marriage. And I was like, how can that be? Mine is eternal. Mine was in the temple, Not that I am better. I'm not saying that. I just, when you grow up learning that your marriage is eternal and that you were married in the temple for time and all eternity, and suddenly, you're not anymore, and that marriage is broken, but your friends who have left the church or are not even in religion at all are flourishing, I was like, what have we done? How could we have failed when we had the gospel? It still messes with me. There's a lot of stuff, and I mean, this is not an LDS podcast, so maybe we don't go deeper there, but there is something that you have to remember too, is that it doesn't matter what you say in the temple. If the intent is not there and the actions and the behavior after is not there, your temple wedding and your sealing has to be sealed by the Holy Ghost, by the Spirit of promise. If the Holy Ghost is not there in your marriage, in your everyday life, if he is not sealing that effort, it's null and void. Which reminds me, that's when my dad said to me one day, why do you still have your wedding ring on? And I was like, well,
well, because I'm still sealed, Dad. I had this kind of delusional thought that I would still be sealed and like have another chance even after this life, even if he didn't choose me. Because I was so desperate for him to come home, you know. And
you thought that there was something that you could do to change him and his mind and his heart.
Yeah, well, and just that we had the eternal, I mean, we were sealed for time and all eternity. And maybe it didn't work in time, but it'll work in eternity. Like, that's where my mind was going, because I was so worried about what would even happen to me. Like, almost I would be punished for this decision too.
Yeah. And that's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You cannot,
I know.
Women cannot get sucked into this thought process, right? Like, if you are living the way you're supposed to, if you are being true to the covenants that you have kept, that you made, if you keep the covenants you have made, you have nothing to worry about.
But when you say keep the covenants you have made, the covenants, they weren't being made anymore. I mean, yes, I tried, but this is like where my head would go.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I've tried to keep them, but they're broken. Whether I wanted them broken or not, no, you know, you'd start to panic.
But what leads up to being sealed in the temple? You receive your endowment. What do you do in an endowment ceremony? Which we can talk about this to a degree, because I mean, there's lots of places you can read about it, but you make 5 covenants, right? And the law of chastity, you're still keeping it. The law of consecration, you're still keeping it. The law of obedience, you're still all of these laws, or all of these covenants that you've made, you're still keeping them. Yeah. And when you walk out of the temple, you have all this power and authority in the priesthood. So as members of the church, we go to the temple and we make covenants in an endowment, right?
Which are promises.
The endowment session, which is promises, right? We make promises with our Heavenly Father. We covenant with Him. And as a result of those promises that you make, either before you go on a mission, or if you're thinking you're going to get married soon before you get sealed, you make these covenants. And those are the covenants that you draw all the power from, right? We have all the power and authority in the priesthood that men do, because that is like the pinnacle of the priesthood power is in the temple. So when you leave those temple walls, you're wearing your garments that remind you of these covenants, that you're putting on the name of Jesus, and you walk out and you still have all of this power and authority in the priesthood within whatever stewardships you have. And that's a super important thing to remember. But then you go and make these covenants in addition to that with your spouse. You make a covenant.
I was going to say, because, there's more covenants in the sealing.
Right.
Yeah.
But you still have all of the covenants intact that you made previously.
Yeah.
And you haven't done anything to break the covenants you made in that sealing room.
Yeah.
So you still have all of the blessings from that too.
Right. Yeah. And it's true. I mean, I'm glad that she's reminding everyone out there, because we do like self-destruct.
Well, you play games
with your head. With your mind.
It messes with your mind, right? And you worry about all of this stuff, but you have to remember, like we talked about last time, that like God is in relentless pursuit of you. He loves you. He is not an unfair, unjust, unkind, fire and brimstone God. That's not who He is.
Yeah.
He wants you to succeed. So He's given you every power you need, every opportunity you need to learn and to grow and to progress and all that. And just because your idiot petitioner X did something doesn't mean that your salvation is at stake.
Yeah.
It's just, so you have to, because the thing is if you spend years being gaslit or being made to feel less than,
because you're the reason I'm leaving.
Right.
Then you're like, well, I've broken the covenant because you left because I've been so awful.
No.
All right. I know.
Exactly. And you have to remember too, the principle of agency, right? Everybody has this ability to choose. You may have been imperfect, like we all are, but you did not make the choice to leave.
Right.
And some women, by the way, have to make that choice to leave because it's unsafe.
Yes.
And that's a whole different ballgame too.
And that I think is even harder, because they're the ones making that choice to leave.
It's even harder. Yeah. But still the same principle remains, because the exit they are having to run away from, they broke the covenant first.
Long ago.
Yeah, long ago, because they're breaking commandments. They're treating them poorly. Like there's no spirit of promise that is sealing that marriage.
And that is what my dad said in the end. Why are you wearing your ring? I'm like, well, I'm still sealed. He's like, Julie, because I still wasn't, the divorce wasn't even official. I was still married, and he was like, the spirit has not ratified your sealing for a long time.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm using the right language, but that's, exactly.
It's you are. But he said, when he's like, the spirit's it has not ratified your sealing anymore. And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
And it was like that day where I was like, taking that ring off
Yeah,
because I'm like, it was over, but
you're merging the legal, like earthly laws that we abide by with God's law, and God's law is not the same.
Yeah.
Right? If it's not sealed by the Holy Ghost, it doesn't matter if it's written down.
Right. And I was like, but it's not even official. He's like, it wasn't official the day he walked out. I was like, what?
Yep.
But I needed someone to tell me that. And so for all of you listening, and I'm going to get a little closer to the camera and tell you, Heavenly Father does not want his daughters to be abused physically, emotionally, spiritually, verbally, legally. He does not want you to be abused. And so for those of you that have left because you felt you had to, I don't think that will be held against you, or you won't be held accountable for that, because I think it's almost a mockery to stay in it, when it's not healthy. And
well, it stunts everybody's growth.
No kidding.
And we're here to learn and to grow,
So anyway, he leaves, right? And I've got suddenly this new billing system where I'm like, well, crap. Now, the lawyers and the court is urging me to come up with 50% of the money.
And tell them how they figure out how much money you should be able to make.
Well, for example, one girl just wrote to me in a direct message and said, I don't know what to do. Like, I have nothing, but in the decree, the judge just automatically imputed the money that I'm responsible to make to minimum wage. And I was like, what the heck does impute mean? Like, there's so many words, but basically they just say, well, if you don't have a job and you're a stay-at-home mom, we will just make it so that you should be getting what minimum wage would be if you were to have a full-time job. So if, for example, a woman is finally got all of her kids in school, she's got her kindergartner, and she's finally free, so to speak, during the day, the court expects you to go work from 8 to 3, and they will just impute your wage to minimum wage. So, and sometimes they will, if you're making some money, let's say you make, I don't know, $50 for 2 hours doing something, or, $50 per hour being a therapist, and you get to choose your schedule at 2 hours a day or a week. They will set your schedule for you and say, well, you are able to work from 9 to 3 at $50 an hour. So they'll impute you to that money, and then you're expected to earn that.
Yeah.
And so suddenly, even for me, they were like, I was being grilled in the deposition. A deposition is where you're questioned by opposing counsel for 4 hours straight. And they're recording you, and they have a court recorder there recording it all, doing shorthand, like all the things. And he said to me, well, now when do you have a preschooler in preschool? And I was like, well, I've got one that goes from 9 to 11, and then I have another that goes from 12 to 12:30. And he's like, okay, so you could work from 3 to 5, and you could work from 11 to 12:30. And I was like, what?
Because it's really easy to find an employer who wants to pay you for an hour and a half at a time.
He's like, yeah, don't say you don't have the ability or the capacity. I was like, well, I've still got these kids are still at home. Like, they're taking naps still. But they will do all they can to be like, oh, suck it up. Go get a job for 2 hours. You'll be fine. And it's required, and the court will make you do it anyway.
And who's supposed to watch the kids and all
that's
of the things?
Thing. Like, you'd be paying for childcare, especially if I'm at minimum freaking wage. So I was in this situation where I was like, I have to now come up with half of the mortgage, half of the utilities, half of the extracurriculars. And like we were talking about before today, you had mentioned that's on a good day. That is if the ex-spouse is doing their share.
Right. We don't even need to get into your specific situation. Let's just say that, any dad who's worth their salt, they're paying exactly what they're supposed to pay. That means that they pay on time for child support and alimony and extras and all that stuff. That's half.
And that's still a struggle.
But how often do you hear of a dad that shows up, or whatever, an ex-spouse? It doesn't have to be a dad, but whoever doesn't have the kids, how often do they show up where they need to be? Do they pay the money they're supposed to pay?
We wouldn't have a need for court.
Right.
There would be no waiting period of 4 months per hearing. Like,
and then let's say they are short of perfection, and they miss out on 4 months of child support and alimony or whatever. What does it take to get the court to do anything?
Then there's more what I call maternal deprivation. Like, there's more struggling moms who can't feed their kids, who, you're supposed to keep the standard of living. So if a mom was getting her nails done and her hair done and getting massages every week, the court typically will grant you the life that you were living pre-separation.
Supposedly, that's what but my point is, if there might be, let's just throw out random numbers, okay? Let's say they say he owes you $100,000 a year, all things combined, with extras and whatever. He doesn't pay you. It doesn't matter if he doesn't pay you, for months at a time, or if he misses the extras or medical bills, whatever the cause is, right? What do you have to do to see that money? Well, you may have to file for a
motion to enforce.
A motion to enforce, right? And then let's say that goes to the next person, and then like the commissioner, and then it's like, well, let's give him 6 months, and then it's right. So in the meantime, while you're going through all this, you're paying more money that you don't have for lawyers and the commissioner or the judge or whoever you end up with, and then you still don't see any money at the end of it. So a lot of women aren't going to even go that route to have the law step in and enforce it. But then what does enforcement look like? Well, if they're not self-employed, then they can garnish wages if they have a job. So
that's the Office of Recovery Services. And because people will say to me all the time, get them to garnish his wages. You can't garnish a 1099. Like, you can't. It only works for people that have W-2s where you're getting a constant paycheck and they pull out your taxes and they pull out all the things. When you're getting cash or you're paid under the table or a personal check from someone you've done a concert for, they can't garnish that. So he typically pays the Office of Recovery Services, and then they pay me. The problem with that is there's fees on his end and on my end. But I would rather do that because the state now keeps record. Because no court of law takes my word for it. They're not going to take my spreadsheet and be like, oh, that's correct. So I'll take the fee just so that it can be
on record.
Like legit. Yeah. So in answer to your question, what do we do in the meantime? We panic. Especially when you've never had to do it before. I'm fully capable of, I've had jobs in the past and am
But
ambitious.
You know what they say about jobs? The best time to find one is when you already have one, right? Like, to go from unemployed to employed is so long and hard. Well, that's the thing,
yeah. We've been out of the workforce for 18 years.
Right. I mean, so you've got a crappy resume, but it's not just the resume. It's also the time it takes to get a serious job. Now, could you go work at some minimum wage? Sure, you could get a job like that. But if you're talking a job that would pay for daycare, that would support
and that
your
would pay
family,
for health insurance,
it takes months and months to go through interviews and do all this stuff. So
and then not to get it.
Yes, I mean, you have to have 4 of those in the works at a time, right? So if you're not receiving the funds that you were told by the court that you should, I guess is my point. Just because you should get it, just because the court tells you should get it, doesn't mean you're actually going to get it, right? And so
even when it's, sorry, go ahead.
Even if you have what you think is a perfect, divorce where it's amicable and whatever, like, you cannot assume that it's going to go the way that the court wants. And then you can't assume that the court is going to, like, hold anybody's hand.
No.
There's no hand holding.
No.
There's no making it right. They're not going to step in and say, oh, he's late, here's some money. Or, oh, he's late, he's now going to owe you more money.
There is no one, I learned that, there is no one coming to rescue you. I mean, other than Jesus, But I think that's where my faith has grown during this experience. Because instead of applying for jobs, I have been applying for every assistance under the sun. I mean, I am currently on WIC. And I didn't know what WIC was. Did you know what it stands for?
Women, infants, children?
Correct. So I was like, what's WIC? And it only works for kids up until the age of 5. So my benefits for WIC will be up in January when Naoma turns 5. But I get, just for her, every single month, I have an app, but I get 3 gallons of milk. That's just for her. I mean, so think of if I had a bunch of kids under 5, which I've had before, but 3 gallons, like a jar of peanut butter or a can of beans, you get a pound of cheese, you get a quart of yogurt, you get 2 cereals, a loaf of bread, but you don't get to, and then you get $26 worth of fruits and vegetables. And that is that. And then, of course, I've applied for EBT, which is the food stamps. I've applied for, and these are not just like fill out a paper and you're done. It takes forever.
Well, and it's not just once, you have to maintain it.
Oh my gosh. And then you have to renew it. And you don't just get to sign a paper to renew. You have to fill out the entire application again. And it's all of your kids' socials, and it's all of your kids' birthdays, and it's all of your tax returns and ledgers from, employers. And it just is so time consuming. And so I've applied for Utah Heat, which pays for your, gas and electricity. There's other services.
That was the one that I didn't know was a thing, was the gas
I didn't
and
either.
That's
people
cool
have reached out to tell me these things. And then there's, of course, all these amazing charities. I want to give a shout out to Live Your Dream Foundation. They've helped me a lot. And so has Raising Violet, or maybe it's Rising. I always say it wrong. There's the Single Parent Project. There's a bunch of charities that are helping, but the problem with some of those foundations is that it is in place for single moms it gives them grants to go back to school. Mm. But I'm like, I went to school. Like You have
to get a master's.
I don't know if it's for that.
It could be.
It could be.
A lot of undergrads are actually useless. A lot of them you need a master's for.
No kidding. So I have applied for everything. And then when you don't get it, like I have applied for a bunch of scholarships, and there's a Stella Oaks Foundation. There's a ton of them, but a lot of them are, let's help women get back to school. But then again, here I am like, okay, I go back to school and I get a master's. I get this amazing job. I still have 8 kids.
That's also, it's just part of the equation.
I know.
You have to have family that helps out, or there's got to be, something's got to give.
I'm waiting for it to give, because it has been, we're going on our 4th Christmas where I'm like, crap. I've had 3 sub for Santas already. I've had family step in already. I've had the bishop and the ward step in already. Like, who's going to help me now? And there's so many of us dealing with that. And that is why the holidays are dreadful. Mm-hmm. And every church function, baptisms, ordinations for the boys to become deacons and teachers, they are dreadful. Because what should have been an amazing experience, and it still can be, yes, but my heart is still hurt. And it's hard to see him either perform the ordinances or even just be in the same room. It's difficult, because it's like you're reminded of what could have been, and it could have been a joyful day, but instead it's full of anxiety.
I think that all of this, I don't know. I think that when we talk about this, I just always think, well, you have to relive your trauma. Because just seeing his face represents 18 years mm-hmm. of, all sorts of garbage, right? That is coming to the surface. And I don't have a ton of beef with a ton of people, but there is somebody in my life that every time I see them, it's just kind of like, I don't even know what to do. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do I just pretend that I'm fine? Do I pretend there's a good relationship? It's just one of those things that is just kind of, it's hard. There's a physiological change in me.
Oh yeah.
I'm tense, and I'm regretful and sad, but also anger, all of these emotions all at once, even though mentally I prepare every time, and I just think there's no reason to get upset. There's no reason, it's just a few minutes with this person and it's fine. But there's something about trauma looks different for everybody, but when you have an event that changes your life, that's pretty much trauma, right? Mm-hmm. That changes the whole rest of your life, that's trauma. And when you have the symbol of that trauma walk in the door,
you talk about the word trigger, and everybody uses, it triggers me, but that's a literal trigger where you're and your heart sinks. I've never had a panic attack until I saw him after he had already left. Because you see him again, you're like, oh my gosh. and my heart would not stop like rapidly beating. I actually talked to my doctor about it, and she prescribed me something to be able to take off the edge of, like, I felt like my heart was going to pound out of my chest. But then the alternative was taking that medicine like an hour before the incident was about to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't keep my eyes open because it's like a sedative.
Oh,
so I was like,
yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I couldn't stay awake. But
Yeah.
did you see the woman shaking in my video that got the stellate ganglion block?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this is a woman who has severe childhood trauma. I think it was like CPTSD or something. Childhood severe
Some PTSD.
PTSD, yeah. And she just shakes every time she goes to therapy. Like, her body was shaking to death. So that's a shout out to Precision Stellate, who give the ganglion stellate block, that needle in your ganglion nerve to numb the cortisol, to numb the part of your brain, the amygdala or whatever, that sends the panic. Because, my heart sinks every time I see him, which is almost never. So anyway, we're at 37 minutes. We could talk for hours, as you can tell, on a Monday night. So anyway, just wanted to send, I guess, my, not condolences, but commiserate with all the ladies out there.
You're just thinking about where you've been, where you are, where you're going. And there's a lot of people who are still where you've been. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people
still there with
are.
them. That's the problem, where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm still here. Like, have I not progressed? Have I not moved on? Have I not done any better? Am I any better this year than I was last?
You are.
Yeah.
I mean, emotionally, yeah. Maybe not financially, but emotionally, because I think that there's a secret. Both of my parents would say this in different ways. You know, my dad would be like, if I said, life's not fair, my dad would say, I have news for you. Life is not fair. Mm-hmm. But my mom would say, you know, well, when it's like, you know, learn to love work and you'll never work a day in your life kind of thing. You know, like, both my parents are very hard workers. But, oh, crap, I lost it.
Lost your train of thought?
Yes.
Well,
it's about work, but dang it.
It'll be on the tip of your tongue. It'll come as soon as you push stop.
It really will. But my point is, life's not about you. That's what it is. My mom would say, you know, life's not about you. And she says that from a point of service. My whole life, you know, in a lot of families, the men are the ones that have the higher callings at church and that are out serving. Mm-hmm. In my world, it was my mom. Mm-hmm. She held as high a calling as you can outside of Salt Lake as a female, right? Always, my whole life that I remember, basically, right? The stake relief study president, the stake young women's president, stake, all the things on both the ward and a stake level. And so I saw my mom serve and serve and serve and serve and serve. And what I learned from watching her is that, and what I've seen you do naturally, is you're happier when even you're still suffering. You still need the Secret Santa, but instead you'd rather organize a Secret Santa for somebody else. Mm-hmm. Because part of healing and part of finding joy is focusing on other people. Yeah. And somehow when you do that, life seems to come together okay.
And you made me feel better, because I was telling her that I did, my family always chooses someone to give, you know, do a sub for Santa for. And I was like, we've got to do it for my friend. And my family is well-intended, but they were like, well, you need the help. Like, you can't even help yourself. Why are you wanting to do it for her? Which kind of hurt my feelings, but, but Carly, you said something like, well, you also need the spiritual, how did you phrase it? Like, I want to be able to use my, I don't know.
Well, you have empathy, unlike anybody else, right? To reach out to, I mean, there's one thing to have sympathy. Yeah. But when your heart hurts for somebody because you know that same hardship, it's totally different. Yeah. But in order to get outside of yourself, sometimes the only thing that makes you feel better is doing something good for somebody else.
Like, it was good for my spiritual health. Needed it too, you know, because you've received and received and received. I was like, I've got to give for my spiritual well-being.
Yeah, because nobody likes to be the one that's being served. Everybody wants to serve, but nobody likes to be the one that's getting the service. And you've had to receive service for way longer than you would have ever liked. Yeah. And that's a hard place to be.
Yeah, it's humbling. And it is hard.
Yeah, because if you weren't in the situation you were in, you would be serving as much as you could. That's what's in your heart to do. Yeah. And so it's hard to be the one that's like, okay, it's me again.
I know. You know? And it's hard to use people's hard-earned fast offerings, I know it's there for a reason, and it's there for these reasons for those of us who have been kind of left in the dust, but it's still hard to know that it's being used on me. And when I gave her these gift cards to Amazon and Costco and Visa gift cards, she just started to cry. And
this woman that you were doing the stuff for Santa for, yeah.
And I selfishly, I needed that. I needed to see that for my own spiritual well-being, so that I could be like, oh my gosh, like we've blessed her too. And I've had this so much, but I wanted to be able to do it for someone else so that I can, charge ahead. And I didn't want to forget this. This is kind of off topic a little bit, but I was talking about how we have to pay, 50% overnight. And what really bugs me is that the men get a 50% discount. No longer do they have to pay for, even if they're ordered, right? They have to pay half of the medical, half of the dental, half of extracurriculars, half of the house, half of everything. And when I have nothing I have nothing, like I have nothing reserved or like there to save me, where he's now getting a discount.
Yeah. And it's so hard because if you talk to anybody who's like a financial genius who knows how to grow wealth, they'll say the worst thing you can ever do for your wealth is to get divorced.
Yes.
Because even though he's getting a discount, what he can now afford is half as much. Like he now can't afford the nice house because he's paying for two houses basically, right? Like the amount of money that he brings home. Yes, he gets, if he's bringing home $100,000, he still gets $50,000 just for him, but he's not going home to the same house. He's not going, it's like, it is a discount for him. The thing that bothers me more than that is for me, it sounds at least a lot easier for one person to live on that half than 9.
Yeah.
But it also it sounds a lot easier to go and find, like, you're the kind of person that would go to Amazon and work 3 to 8 in the morning shift loading trucks. You're the kind of person that would go and do the dirty custodian job. You would show up and earn the money whenever you could. The problem is you have all the kids.
Yeah.
And you can't ever rely on not having the kids. So you cannot get a steady job. But when you have half the income and none of the children, except for when it's convenient for you, you get to go and have whatever career you want and bring home whatever money you want. And so
he can cancel parent time whenever he wants.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, it's a blessing and a curse, because some people would die to have the kind of time that you have with your kids.
Yeah.
Right. So true. That is a blessing.
That's true. Have you seen that video where the couple is lined up on a racetrack? And he is holding all of the kids.
Yes.
And she takes off sprinting.
Yes.
And he's like holding these 3 kids, and they're weighing him down, and he's way behind her. And it says something like all she needed was she just needed to be able to be free to sprint.
Yeah.
But we have children, and we're going to take care of them because that's what moms do for the most part.
Well, and you're not, the thing about a career, I really like, I think we talked about it in an earlier podcast, but I really like this idea that, like, we don't do as stay-at-home moms what we do so that our husband can do what he does. He does what he does so that we can do what we're doing, because there's no greater responsibility and also reward than raising children, than raising a family, right? Yep. So it's not like you never felt the need to get a full-time job and to make him hold the kids so that you can run the race, because that's not what's important to you. But now you're forced to make both important. And you cannot run that race and be as successful as a spouse would be while you're at home, right? Yep. Because you're doing it all. You can have it all, but not all at the same time. Right. And that's the problem.
Right.
So it's just this impossibility that you face. And so for me, it's like, it's so hard because the court, it's like they want to have their cake and eat it too, right? Like it doesn't work this way. Either you give the parent that has the kids more often more of the money and, whatever. more resources, or you require the kids to be with the dad more so the mom. But there's a lot that goes into it, because I know like safety is an issue. There's a lot that goes into it, why a lot of moms don't want their kids to be with their dad. So it's not that simple, I understand, but.
Well, we didn't even add that on top. Then you've got legal fees on top of it all.
Oh,
and the legal fees are double the price of my entire mortgage. Like the lifespan of the mortgage is the cost of my attorney fees. I will say that is why the judge wrote in the final decree that it is woefully inequitable. It was like the best part of that whole 58-page decree that says it is woefully inequitable for one person to keep X amount of money and to give 9 people 5 times less. And so around the law firm, we're all like putting woefully inequitable on T-shirts, on mugs, on all the things.
Yeah, forget gritty mama. We need woefully inequitable.
I know. Oh, I plan on it. I even plan to have a T-shirt that says divide and conquer, but that just crosses out divide and says conquer. Because I don't have the luxury of dividing and conquering. We just conquer. Yeah. But it to kind of round all this out, when you said it's like the dumbest thing you can do financially is get divorced, he said to me, I don't care what I have to lose to be at peace. And he clearly didn't, because he was about to, I think, make the most foolish decision of his life in order to, quote unquote, have peace, because it really actually caused a wave of destruction and heartache.
Do you think that he really understood what was about to happen?
Of course not. I didn't either.
Like, how could he really understand? Because to me, peace doesn't come in loneliness or wealth.
And that's a therapist said to me, because I've seen like 6 of them. She said, I think that, I hope I get this right. She said, I think that he is confusing peace with relief. She said they are not the same thing. Yeah. If you say, I'm done with this marriage, and you're like, there, I said it, I'm done, I'm out, and you feel so much better. Well, what you're really feeling is maybe the relief of not carrying the burden of sticking around, or you feel relieved that you're not going to fight anymore. You feel relieved that you don't have to see her anymore or him anymore.
Well, you're relieved of responsibility. I mean,
exactly.
Like, I hear when people will leave religion, doesn't matter what church, they're always like, I feel so relieved. I've never been happier in my life.
Yes.
Right? And it's like, well, I'm sure that's true. I'm sure you've never been happier, because now you can go and do whatever you want with no consequence. And there's no guilt associated. You're removing responsibility for your actions, because now you don't believe in a higher power. You don't believe in basically consequences. It's just, it is what it is. Do what you want. Eat, drink, and be merry. And of course, you remove responsibility, and you will have that temporary relief until it becomes lonely, until it becomes pointless, until it eventually backfires.
Yeah, it is not the same as peace. And I will, if I remember, I will link that article, because she sent it to me, and I was like, and it made me feel better. Like, he's confused. He's not feeling peace, at least not forever. He's feeling temporarily relieved. I
have a hard time believing that if he really understood what was coming, that he would make that same choice.
I mean, I can't even answer yes or no on that, because he was just like,
well, I mean, it's all, who knows what, but I have a hard time believing that anybody who really loves his children, really loves the gospel.
Well, but yeah, any person that maybe is, how do I say this? Maybe completely healthy in regards to relationships, because he even said to me, do you think that I would sacrifice the love of my kids if I didn't think I needed to do this? Because at one point he was saying to me, the kids hate me. I said, they don't hate you. They love you, and they want you to come home. And I said, please come home. And he kept refusing. And that's when he said, do you think that I would sacrifice the love of my kids if I didn't feel this was important? And I was like, what? Like, he was like, we were all on the sacrificial altar for him to be able to rediscover himself and have peace. So anyway, it's not peaceful, people. It's been a pain in the rear.
No, it's heartbreaking. My heart breaks not just for you guys, but for him too, because I do think that one day he will wake up and have a lot of things.
Yeah, and that's what's, I think, been the most painful part, because I've been worried about him and his standing before God. And obviously it's none of my business, but it was my business, when we were married, and it's still painful.
Well, and it still affects your kids. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think that's why it's so hard when you talk about coming up on Christmas and Thanksgiving and all the holidays, because his behavior, his choices, everything affects your kids. It is your business to the extent that it affects them.
Yeah, that's true. So my heart is with all of you single moms out there, you gritty mamas that are dreading the holidays, trying to make the best of them for you and for your kids. Please donate to my Activate link, which is going to help gritty mamas in need, especially for the holiday season. And remember, the storehouse is available to all, whether you are members of the church or not.
And there are things like Tabitha's Way. Mm-hmm. Tabitha's Way, I think it's not just in Utah. I think Tabitha's Way is in lots of different places, isn't it?
I don't know. You're the one that introduced me to it.
I have to double check, but I feel like it's something that I found in Washington too. But there are community-based things. It's interesting because I grew up only hearing about Planned Parenthood. I had no idea how many pregnancy clinics there were, how many people are willing to help. I mean, there's a ton. If people call you on it and they say, oh, tell me, I don't believe you that they're out there, because that's a talking point for people. They're like, oh, you want babies, but you don't want to take care of them. It's like, it's total BS. There are lots of people who want to help take care of babies, but there's lots of organizations and churches who are really trying to do a lot of good with single moms especially. So they're out there, and if you don't know about them, find somebody who does. Yeah. We can help you, but I'm sure you've got people who know. Yeah. And keep the comments coming. What do you have questions about? What do you want to know more about? Thanks for watching and listening, and stay tuned. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, which is over by the time you listen to this. See you, bye. So now you know what it means to be gritty. It can be dirty, but you're still so pretty. Now make a pledge and never take no pity. Baby, welcome to the gritty committee. She's a gritty girl, and she got gritty plans. So get out the way, so she can wash her hands of the blame and the shame and the claiming that she would never be enough. The gritty mama got that stuff. She's a gritty girl, and she got gritty friends.